Oh, okay. So Emily also is not here, so we're trying to get her in. But Ardija and Jennifer, we missed you guys last week. Does one of you have court duty? Somebody texted when they had court jury duty last week. Was that either one of you? No. Okay. Okay. So I apologize for the technical difficulties. We've been around for like 5 years and we just bought our own platform. And obviously it didn't work. So I do apologize for that. But thank you for hanging in here and trusting my staff that we definitely always want to get your money's worth. We're never trying to take anything from you ever, ever, ever. So this session today will go probably later than 8 o'clock. If you need to leave early, I understand. So guys, let's just do a quick check-in. We're trying to wait. I'm gonna wait till Emily gets here. So we don't do this again. So, and Emily pops in, I will go back and do a quick check-in. What I'll do, I'm gonna give you a heads up. I'll do like roses and thorns. So tell me the best and worst that's happened to you this week. Okay, it's just so you know. And we don't know you, so you can just, make up some stuff as we go along. But by the end of the 15 weeks, we will be in the performing stage and we will know you and we'll call you on your BS, right? That's the stages of group, right? Forming, norming, storming, performing, and then it's over. Or if we use YALM, right? Orientation, right? Do some pre-screening, all that good stuff. So this will run. So you'll see the example of group really as this develops. I always say it's the same way as a classroom. Okay, so I'm Dr. Pam, the guys that just joined us, and we were just starting off talking just in general about Freud. Oh, there's Emily. I bet she's on the phone with Prudence. Hi, Emily. Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can. I apologize for technology. We just purchased our own platform and maybe it's not working as well as we thought it would. So I'm definitely sorry, but Zoom is always our backup. And we have Zoom, we have Skype, we have Google Doc, Google Duo, we own everything. So sorry, again, I apologize for the inconvenience. It is been recorded. I will tell you though, so the downside of this is anything that I use, I'll go back and I'll put in the messenger in the Pearl. So you'll get the video from that. You'll get anything I hand out today, anything I use, I'll put it in the Pearl messenger. Okay, so just so we always make sure that you don't lose anything that I share with you. So what I start, and we're going to go through an introduction again. I'll probably go past 8 tonight, so we can kind of do an introduction again. But I really want to kind of get into the meat of things. So you guys just kind of hold on. And Emily, I said at the end, as we introduce ourselves and you meet everybody, you have to do your roses and thorns, the best and the worst that's happened to you this week. Okay, so it gives you time to think about it, so you're not freaking out. I started off with just talking about, so you'll have the assignment of learning your helping relations. So you'll know that is the biggest part of the test. So when people are like, oh my gosh, Dr. Pam, I've got to pass, I say, know these, because you'll see them in the individual section, you'll see them in families, and you'll see them in group, right? So these are why what we do. This is the basis of what we do while we do what we do, right? Some theory. We went to school to learn the theories. And remember, the test is based on the theories. How you practice every day in real life, that's totally up to you. Okay. I'm going to turn my closed caption on. If you want to turn yours on as well, you'll see the words and you'll get a transcript also. Because I think especially when it comes to vocabulary, it's nice to actually see the words so we can increase your vocabulary. So I started off with Freud, and Freud was our father of psychotherapy. And I'm going through the Hellwig book. I don't have it pulled up, but if you're going to follow me, that's where I'm going through. Okay, so it starts off with Freud, and Freud is the father of psychology. He's the father of talk therapy. Before Freud, women were giving like lobotomies and ice baths, and I literally say women because you could put your wife in a sane asylum for literally no reason at all. Okay, so he said, well, let's talk. It's women. Let's try that, right? So his first study was Anna O. Anna O was not his case. Anna O was his colleague's case. So if we are in the research area, Anna O is considered a case study. Okay. So Anna O was, I'm going to share my screen with you. So Anna O was, her name was Poppenheimer was her real name. And you won't see on the test, but just know who she was. She was Poppenheimer. And of course, she had hysteria. So Freud and all his colleagues at the beginning said everything was caused from our uterus. That's why men didn't have any problems, just us, right? We had neurosis, anxiety, we had all that stuff caused because I have a uterus. Imagine that. Okay. I'll also ask you guys not to take notes. Just be mindful, be with me, go back and watch the video 17 times, stop it and take notes. Okay. Be with me. Just be with me in a second, because if you're not with me, you're going to lose something. And I swear you own this till the day you die. Okay. You don't want it that long. Really, you don't. Okay. But just be with me in the moment. Just be with me in the moment. Come with questions that pop up. Just be with me. Okay. The same as the mindfulness you do with a client, right? You're thinking in the back of your head, you're thinking things all right down, but you're in the moment with the client. Okay. So then Anna O, right? So what happened is she came in and she had all this stuff going on. She was, having this stuff. So Freud based his theories pretty much on Anna O. Okay. I was talking earlier and I was reminding them that the id, superego, and ego. Am I sharing that screen? This is called a topography. Okay. So Freud said, I am born with my id. Anybody?
I can't see the screen. It's black.
I could see it.
I'll share again. And what I'll say most often is if it's black, give it a minute. I just have like this amazing fast connection. Did it come up, Jeanette?
No, but it's okay.
No, it's not okay. Log back out and log back in. And I'll put it in the chat box also. I'll put it in the chat box right now in this one so you can see it. Can everybody else see it? Honestly, I just have, I work because I work from home. I have I don't have Wi-Fi. I don't use Wi-Fi. I use an internet connection and I have like 6G. So usually it'll pop up. Just give it a moment. I live in Chattanooga. We're known as Gig City. People move here because of our fast internet. I don't make it up. I swear. That's my identity versus role confusion, right? I live in Gig City. Still not Janetta? Do you see the chat box? Can you go on the chat box and click it and see it there that way? If you go in the chat box, I put the link in there. You should be able to open the link.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome, welcome. And it is okay if you can't see it. If anybody can't see it, you all pay the same. Let me make sure you get everything you can. The goal is to brain dump everything I know into you. I want to just pour. Okay, open your head and just let me pour in. So remember, our id is our pleasure principle, right? I'm born with my id. My id says eat, sleep, and procreate. My super ego is the angel. Devil's on one side, angel on the other side, right? Okay. My ego is me. My ego is ego strengths, ego defense mechanisms. What did Freud say? What are the reasons for ego defense mechanisms? Anybody? Why do I displace? Marcus, why do I displace? Why do I do that? According to Freud. Yeah, what did Freud say? Do you know what he said?
Like you displace when like you're really upset with something else, but you take it out on something else that's like less intimidating or something. So like if you're mad at your boss, you may come home and take it out on your kids.
Absolutely. So same feeling, wrong place. Okay. Because my ego, who I am, can't handle what's going on right now. Ego defense mechanisms decrease the anxiety of what's happening. I can't handle it. Okay. So we all have them. We all have them. My favorite is intellectualization. That's my favorite. Okay. Whenever I raised 3 kids, whenever they got sick, whenever something happened, what did I do? WebMD. Right. The WebMD, because that's that. So intellectualization is when you think it instead of feeling it. Okay. So those are my defense mechanisms. Those are all under Freud. We all have them. Recognize your own and then definitely use those in your therapy. So denial is considered a simple defense mechanism. So denial is most often the right answer for drug and alcohol use. Okay. Wasn't me. I don't have a problem. What are you talking about? Denial. Okay. So when you see those, it's considered a simple one. That's one of the first ones. So definitely denial is going to be drug and alcohol. When you're looking at the questions, you might see some others, and you're always just going to remember that denial is the one that's the simple one. So if there's other choices and they're not a drug and alcohol person, I'm going to look at some other choices. Okay. I will send you a worksheet. Are you guys pretty good with your defense mechanisms?
Well, I was going to ask, how many are we supposed to know? Because I know there's a lot.
Oh
Like-
God, there are. And the most popular ones, of course, are the ones that you should probably know. But they're a lot. And I'll send you a list of the ones that you should know. So displacement, of course, is feelings the wrong place, right? Okay, and you used anger, but it can be any feeling. I'm afraid, and I am afraid of work, and I come home and I take it out on other people. So it's the same feelings. What's that sublimation thing? Anybody?
Is sublimation like when your feelings and your actions don't match?
So it can be. That is reaction formation. I think that's what you're thinking of.
Oh, yeah.
Reaction formation is purposely. Okay. I tell y'all, when you've got that Sunday pastor, and every Sunday he preaches about homosexuality, every Sunday, he's hiding something, right? He's forming a reaction totally opposite than how he really feels. Ain't there some other stuff in the Bible he can talk about? But if every Sunday, right, he's trying way too hard to hide something, that's a reaction formation. I'm totally trying to form a reaction opposite of how I really feel. Okay. So reaction formation. Regression, what's that one?
It's I was gonna say putting down or trying not to deal with feelings on purpose. So it's the opposite of, not the opposite, it's different than suppression. Because suppression is when you it's not on purpose. You're suppressing
Other way, but you're right. Suppression is on purpose. Suppression is Pam remembers being molested by her dad, but she don't want to talk about it. Okay. That's a choice. That is a conscious choice. Repression is the other one. That's an unconscious choice. I just don't remember. I push it so far down in my ego, right? Down there, my unconscious. I just don't remember. Okay. So that is suppression. Like I said, denial, right? That's the basic one. Wasn't me. I don't know what you're talking about. It's me on the camera. Oh, wasn't me. No. Right. So that's the most common one. Okay. Displacement, like I said, taking out impulses on a less threatening toy. But remember, with displacement, it's the same feeling, just different places. That's one of I'm good at that one too. I have three kids. And now they're all gone, but whatever, there was one in college or one away and like one or two at home. And when those kids that was far away did something and the kid at home did something this big. And I let the kid at home have it because she was just the easier target. Right. They grew up with a mother who's a therapist. Mom, stop displacing. You're not really mad at me. Okay. So that's how well you should know that terminology though, right? Because we all do these. What is projection? Anybody? Or DJ, do you know what projection is?
Is that when we put what we feel on somebody else?
Got it. Can you give me an example?
Common one. I'm a cheater, so I automatically put that on somebody else's, calling them out as being a cheater.
Absolutely, but that sounds so textbook. And what if that doesn't sound that way in the question?
Say again.
Is that you're absolutely right, but that sounds so textbook. That's exactly like verbatim from the textbook. So my concern is always that you understand it and not that you just repeat it from the textbook. Okay. So I'll give you my, we all do them. So as we're going through these, own your stuff, right? It just helps you remember. See your clients in the question, right? In the next notes, right? Client use the reflection or use in projection. So I am, okay, you'll find out soon enough. I'm always late. God, I try. Well, not really. I'm not gonna lie. I don't really try. Okay. So, but I'm always late. In my head, this is how it works. Okay. I'm laying in bed, right? The clock goes off. I'm thinking, well, you know what? You don't need 5 minutes to get dressed, Pam. You're fine. Let your clothes out. You packed your lunch. You're good, right? That's my thought process. I get up in the morning, then I'm thinking, the dress I don't really like. So I pick a different dress, and then I got to pick different shoes to have the different dress. And then I decide I don't like my lunch, and all these things end up being late to work because I didn't get my act together. And the conversation in my head is, Pam, what is wrong with you? You do this every day. Why can't you get your act together, Pam? What is wrong with you? That's my conversation in my head. I get to work and I ask my secretary to go grab me something. She's like, well, I don't know where it is. What is wrong with you? Why can't you get your act together? What is your problem? The stuff about me that I don't like that I put on to you. Projection.
So was that the same example you gave for the pastor who preaches on homophobia?
That was reaction formation.
Oh, okay.
He
Ooh.
formed a reaction totally different than how he's feeling. Projection is my stuff that I just let all over you. Ain't got nothing to do with you. My stuff.
Okay.
So I'm putting the stuff about me that I don't like onto you. Okay. Reaction formation is when I'm forming a reaction opposite than how I really feel. And the question will see him doing something. Pam loses her job and she decides to take her family on a very expensive cruise. I formed this reaction so you won't know what's really going on. Okay. So projection, a couple of those things. Okay. Projective identification or projection with identification belongs to Bowen in family therapy. Bowen said, as people, as families, we project the stuff about our stuff we don't like onto our kids. I didn't go to college. I'm fine. Just because I had 3 baby daddies and I turned out okay. So that's projective identification, where stuff that we don't like about us, we project onto our children. That's what Bowen said. That's one of the things with the genogram, we're passing things down. Okay. And guys, ask me any questions anytime in the conversation. Okay. I just want you to really be in the moment and really kind of understand when I talk about things. If you don't understand, just ask. Just ask. Okay. So projection is my stuff I don't like about me onto you. Projective identification belongs to Bowenian family therapy and projecting my identity about me I don't like onto my kids. Okay. There's a term also called introjection, INTRO. Introjection, and it probably won't be on my list, is one that you bring in. So as opposed to me projecting out, I'm in a meeting with my boss and my boss says, all y'all therapists, you do not have your case notes together. You're all awful, right? Even though if I have my case notes together, I think he's just talking to me. I'm bringing in stuff instead of projecting. So intro is in, projection is out. Okay. Rationalization. Anybody seen that one? Emily, what is rationalization? You're muted still. And those that weren't here last week, I'll tell you, the goal is for this to be a very interactive class. I don't want to lecture for 4 hours or 2 hours. I can, but that's not the goal. The goal is that for very interactive. So I'm going to ask you, and if you don't know, you don't know. You can phone a friend. We can figure it out together. It's okay.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. I feel like an AT&T commercial. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? So do you know what rationalization is?
Providing a reasonable explanation to make like the undesirable behavior appear like logical.
Sounds totally textbook. Now put it in your own words. What does it mean?
Did I give an example?
Please.
Right. Like a student who failed the test because they didn't study like long enough, and they were saying they failed the test due to the professor or teacher's tricky.
Absolutely. Oh gosh, it's all over Facebook, isn't it? I got the hard version of the test. That's all over Facebook all the time, right? People are rationalizing like that, didn't pass. Absolutely. Very good. Very good. Can you hear my bell? No, sorry.
Can I
I
hear
gotta-
it? No.
You can't hear it now. Sorry. I have noise canceling headphones and unfortunately it takes it out. So I do apologize. I did ring it though. Move it. Okay. So in my video, sometimes you'll hear my bell, but these headphones, you can't hear it. So absolutely. Rationalization is why people in someone, he beats his wife, right? Well, she'd made dinner on time. I wouldn't have hit her. So making excuses for my behavior. Absolutely. Reaction formation, we talked about. Regression is going back to an earlier stage. Okay. It's easy when it's a kid. The question says it's a 5-year-old, and the 5-year-old, the new baby came along, and they're peeing on themselves, right? Enuresis, by the way, enuresis, and copresis is poop. Enuresis is pee. So that's easy. But as an adult, a man is in a courtroom, and the judge rules against him, and he takes his briefcase and he slams it together, and he pushes a chair under, and he walks out of the room. Because that's how little boys behave, not grown men. Okay. A woman who's very upset and she's lying on the floor in a fetal position. That's also regression. I've gone back to an earlier state. Most often you don't get the easy ones. You don't get the one that says the 5-year-old, right? That's the easy one. The test really wants to know, do you know these defense mechanisms? We said before, repression is pulling it all the way down. I don't even remember it happened. And suppression, I think that was you, Davida. Suppression is I do remember, but I don't want to talk about it. I've made a choice. Suppression is the only one that's a conscious thought. Right? Sublimation. So sublimation is when, can you see my screen? Okay. So sublimation is when I have a feeling or an impulse that is not acceptable by, according to society, not okay. So then, sublimating your aggression impulses towards a career as a boxer, becoming a surgeon because your desire to cut, lifting weights as a ways to release pent-up energy. Okay, so sublimation is I've got this thought, this feeling, there's something inside of me that society's not, it says it's not okay. Okay. Little kids, not little kids, but kids in middle school, elementary school, right? They're fighting all the time. They're so angry. And a coach says, hey, why don't you join the boxing team? You need to be on the football team. You need to find a better way to let out that anger. Okay. I like to feel the feel of human flesh in my fingers. Become a butcher, right? You can feel all the cow, the stuff, all you can feel it, right? That's okay way. A common question would be someone who's got weight loss issues, right? I'm struggling with anorexia. I'm struggling with counting my calories. If I become a personal trainer, you're never going to question it. Right? Pam exercises but she's a personal trainer. That's why Pam knows all the calories, but she's a personal trainer. So I'm finding a better way to let out something that society would see that's not appropriate. Okay. Okay. And again, I'll put this list in there. I'll put that in the chat box right now, and you'll get another list also, just to go over those. Those are Freudian. Okay. So Freudian so let's be honest. Those actually belong to Anna Freud, but that's not a test question. So Anna Freud was Freud's daughter, and she's the one that actually came up with most of these, but Freud gets credit. It'll just say Freud. So defense mechanisms belong to Freud. Okay. So in the book, somebody have your Hellwig book open right now?
Yes.
Okay. So below that, as we're talking about Freud, also then talks about transference and countertransference, right?
Yes.
Okay. What are those?
Transference is when the client projects on to the therapist during
Got it. Okay. Is it good or bad?
I feel like it would be good. Don't you want them to,
Well, Freud did. He definitely suggests that. He encouraged people to put their especially because he was treating women, and he encouraged them to put your feelings from that other person onto me. But it's neither. It's neither. It's not good or bad. It just is what it is.
Okay.
Okay. So it can be positive or negative, but not good or bad. Okay. And then a countertransference, of course, is my stuff. Whenever I have countertransference, my stuff gets in the way. What do?
You project onto your client your feelings.
I shouldn't. What should I do?
Like seek supervision or consult
Seek
with partners.
supervision. Absolutely. Whenever my stuff gets in the way. Okay. So in a test question, the woman wants to have an abortion, and I feel strongly that abortion is not okay. My first choice is seek supervision. If the question says I sought supervision and they're still not going away, then I refer the client to somebody else. Okay. But first, I seek supervision. It is not the client's fault. My stuff is in the way. Can you imagine going to see your doctor and he says, oh my gosh, I can't see you because I just think that, people that have blue eyes are awful. Right? Oh, your feelings don't get to get in the way. You keep your feelings in check. But supervision is not therapy. Okay, your supervisor's work is to not give you therapy. Your supervisor's work is to keep your stuff in check so you can make sure that you see the client. Every question we see is always about the client. Why'd you get up this morning? Because the client needed me to. Why is there a code of ethics? The client needed me to, right? It's always about the client. There's not one question that's about you. Okay. You might see like burnout or compassion fatigue, but even those are still about the client. There's not one question that ever asks you, well, how are you doing today? The test doesn't care. Okay. So just understand that the test doesn't care. It's about the client. Okay. Why, if you're working in a multidisciplinary setting and you're putting notes in, it is not so the other staff members can see. It is so all of the staff members together can work together for the client. Okay. Just remember that those are always the right answers. We're looking at what's best for the client. Okay. So countertransference and transference. And then I think, does it go into my neo-Freudians? Okay. So anybody who's taken the test before? Okay. So most often with the neo-Freudians, you're not going to have to know specifically who Karen Horney is. Okay. What I say to you is understand what neo-Freudian means. If you want to score 148, come back and know all those names. But I really don't want you to, because then you throw off my skew for everybody else. I don't want you to score 125, 137. I don't want that. I really don't. I need you to like just dumb yourself down so we can just keep that score low. What I said last week is one of those NBC scores on one of the tests, the passing score was 103. And I've been doing this for a long time, and I've never, ever seen a passing score above 100. Never. But if you remember in January, February, March, we're seeing on Facebook people scoring 137, 140, like I only missed 10 points. I'm like, stop. You messed up my skew. I don't want you to do that. So if you want to really score 147, have everybody hate you, just learn all this. But neo-Freudians in general didn't believe in the sex stuff, right? They believe in the ego. They don't believe in the id and the superego fighting back and forth, but they do believe that things are unconscious. Okay. One of my biggest neo-Freudians is Margaret Mailer. Anybody know her? Jeanette, who's Margaret Mailer?
She came up with the object relations theory.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what does that mean?
She believed that as infants, we must go through these specific stages that I don't remember, but if you don't, have to develop like a trust and belongingness to the mom. And feel like I'm forgetting a part of it, but I know that if you don't go,
you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. So my question to you though is, so what is her theory? So why do we study her? What's the theory say? If we don't attach to that one person, what'll happen?
We'll have like attachment issues or like trust issues or some place of like.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. Okay. So she's a neo-Freudian and really one of the early neo-Freudians. So she was, again, 1900s, the same time as Freud. And we didn't have a lot of women back then. Okay. So same thing. She was in Vienna, Austria, and she did her research based on infants in orphanages. And what she found is, you see my screen, the stages? Sharing? Okay. So what you found is that if the children did not have one caregiver, the same caregiver, they never learned to bond with anybody. So what it says now is simple autism. And so remember, this was before autism was a thing. So you might see fusion on the test as well. You might see fusion instead of autism, because that's the catch term now, because it's more appropriate. Okay, but she had autistic before it was on the spectrum. So that first stage of life, the first month, baby, just lie there. Right, just lie there. That's what she said. Right. The second stage is symbiosis. Symbiosis is the second month of life. In the symbiotic stage, the baby just knows, I need this thing over here. Like she's got the milk. She's got the milk. I need her. I don't realize I'm a separate person yet. Right. You see my videos, I always talk about how the mold goes on my food in the refrigerator, like the mold and the cheese don't have a conversation, right? Okay, let me grow on you. I need you to live, but the temperature is right. And I've let it sit long enough so the mold grows on the cheese. That's symbiosis. Okay. It is not between 5 and 7 months. And sometimes we'll say 5 to 10 months that babies actually realize they're a separate person. Okay. You might see the question also, when does like stranger anxiety develop? Around the same time, when I realize that I'm over here and mama's over there, like, whoa, right? Okay. So that is when stranger anxiety. Go ahead, Jeanette.
So you're saying like the stranger anxiety phase happens during stage 3?
I am between 5 and 10 months.
Okay.
Most often the answer is 6 months on the test. Okay. Because before that, I don't realize we're a separate person. Now that I get that we're separate and now somebody else comes to pick me up, like, whoa, you're not mama. Okay. So that is separation, individuation, and sometimes it's called differentiation. All of those are the same thing of realizing I'm a separate person than my mom. Okay. The others you won't see, hatching or practicing you won't see, but you may see rapprochement. That is usually about 16 months. So it's between 16 months and 2. I'm going further away from mom. I can walk, going further away, but I'm looking around, make sure mom's still there. Wait, she's not there. Where'd she go? Where'd she go? And the last stage is object constancy. So I say she's a neo-Freudian because it's an unconscious development that in my ego, my it, I mean, not my unconsciously, I know that somebody has my back. No matter how far I go in life, that I always have a soft place to land and somebody always has my back. Okay. I think I did a great job with this. My kids will see a flights like wherever and get on it and go. My son went to Iceland because the flights were cheap. Okay, just whatever. Okay. So I think they obviously know that, something happens, mom's got their back. It's a safe place to land. But let's say that I didn't learn that. And again, she did this with research with kids in orphanages, but I use this theory a lot, and I think it has a lot to do with modern day. So if we see that, kids, especially if we look at inner city kids or poorer kids, lower socioeconomic status, right? Mom had me when she was 14, 15. Okay. Everybody wants mom to finish school. We want mom to finish school. So in that first year of life, I was with my mama, my grandmother, my mama, his mama, my granny had me, right? My play cousin. All these people are trying to take care of me so mama can finish school. But between 2 and 3, I've had 5 or 6 different caregivers. I have never learned that one person has my back. Are we surprised that I joined a gang? And according to Mark Maker, I don't even remember this. I don't even remember this. This happened. This is unconscious. I don't remember. But there's a part of me on the inside that never learned that somebody's always got my back. Okay. So object constancy is that one object. My mom, my dad, that house will always be there. As opposed to object permanence, which belongs to who? Anybody? Davida?
Piaget.
Piaget, absolutely, yes. That's that first stage, right? So that's when I learned that peekaboo thing. That's object permanence. The ball is still there. Object constancy is somebody has my back. She said that if we don't learn that, if kids don't learn that, she said reactive attachment disorder comes from that. Little kids that we get them, have you seen the stories, right? Kids that come over adopted from orphanages, and they try to burn the house down with all the other people in it. Okay. She said that conduct disorders, those little kids that have no remorse. They set the cat's tail on fire. When my daughter was 4, she had a friend that we went to my friend, we went to the gym together. And later she told me that her friend, there were 4, told her how to pinch the babies to make them cry. That's not normal 4-year-old behavior. Okay. That is not normal. So that's conduct. That's a conduct. They're too young to diagnose it for, but anyone that purposely inflicts pain on somebody else, red flags. Okay. We stopped hanging out with them, by the way, just so you know. So not okay. So, again, kids that break the law, and between ODD, oppositional defiant disorder, and conduct, the kids who break the law are the conduct disorders. Okay. Jennifer, when a kid is conduct, we diagnose him from 6 to 16. After 16, what do we diagnose him as? Do you know? I can't hear you. Can you tap my chat? I just, your sound's not working. Put it in your chat box. Can you guys hear us? Is it just me? Does anybody know? What do we diagnose him as? Erica?
Bipolar?
Mm-mm.
No.
Personality, a personality.
Which one? Yes, which one?
I want to say
Antisocial. That is it. So they're not asocial. Okay. Asocial people that don't like people, right? They're going to stay home, right? Asocial. Antisocial. If anyone calls you antisocial, your response should be, I haven't killed anybody yet. Antisocials are conduct disorders grown up. That's the Jeffrey Dahmers of this world. They have no remorse. They don't get that their things hurt people at all. Okay. So the difference between an conduct disorder, Jennifer, and anybody else. So in the question, my ODD kids, oppositional defiant, they're bad. They're bad. Let's not pretend they're still bad kids. Okay. I use that term loosely. Please don't blow me up on Facebook. Pam says they're all bad. That's not what I mean. But their behavior is not okay. But the difference between that and conduct disorders are conduct disorders have no remorse. Okay. So that they will poke the dog's eyes out. They'll set the cat's tail on fire. And what? What do you mean it hurt them? What do you mean? Okay. So with our conduct disorders, and when they grow up to become antisocials, we're always trying to teach them empathy. Right? Empathy. Your behavior hurt someone else. Our pedophiles grown up are antisocials. If you ever work with a pedophile, they really don't get that their behavior hurt somebody. She was 6 and she was asking for it. Right? Okay. So that is that. So conduct to antisocial, serial killers, anti-societal rules. She also said borderlines come from there. Borderlines are those people that are very black, very white. Okay. I love you, love you, love you, hate you, hate you, hate you. It's a personality disorder. Okay. And we'll get to that. But DBT is the treatment. Dialectical behavior therapy is always the treatment for my borderlines. It's the only personality disorder that has a treatment.
It actually really works.
That's not a
Like,
test question. Go ahead and share.
I was just going to say, like, I was surprised that it actually really works for somebody in borderline personality disorder. My roommate had borderline personality disorder, and she found like it helped her a lot, and she was like night and day.
Wow, that's very cool. That's very cool. Emily, so borderlines are ego syntonic or ego dystonic. Do you know those terms? Anybody know those terms?
I remember what syntonic is, but I don't remember what dystonic is.
So what's syntonic?
Symptomatic is you feel like, oh, everything's cool. I don't really have any issues. I'm fine just the way I am.
Okay, so then what's dystonic?
I'm not.
I'm coming to that. I'm not fine. I'm coming to therapy. Absolutely. Okay, absolutely. So, okay, am I sharing my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So when we talked about personality disorders, and we talked about ego, right? Because my neo-Freudians believe in the ego. They don't believe in the id or the superego, but they just believe in the ego. So behaviors that are in sync with my ego, I'm not coming to therapy for. All personality disorders are ego syntonic, in sync with how I see myself. Because my first thought to you was, how do we get her to therapy? Because borderlines most often don't think they have a problem. They go because they don't have steady relationships. They go because people keep leaving them, and they're like, not me. I don't know why. So ego syntonic is in sync with my ego. All personality disorders, as well as anorexia, are ego syntonic. Okay. Anorexics always think they're too fat. They weigh 4 pounds, right? The question is never going to say that anorexia showed up for treatment on her own. Never, never, never. Okay. Because she doesn't think she has a problem. They're court ordered. They're mandated. Their parents made them go. Okay. So all the other disorders are ego dystonic. That's why they will come to therapy. They don't like this. Sometimes you'll see the word ego alien as well, foreign to my ego. So the goal of treating a personality disorder is to take it from ego syntonic to make it foreign to your ego, so it'll be uncomfortable for you. Okay. So yes, Emily, I'm so glad that it works. I really am. And it's so DBT is Marsha Linehan. She's an offshoot of CBT, which started off with Beck. But so DBT, and that's in the bottom of in that same chapter. So DBT has the 4 tenets. The goal of DBT is always to make it uncomfortable. The goal of DBT is to help borderlines realize that they can actually make some changes. Marsha Linehan tried to coin mindfulness. We had it around forever. I don't know how she thinks she can own it, but she's tried to own it.
Dr. Pam, did you post those defense mechanisms already?
I did not. I was going to put everything in the chat box from and go back and Pearl and put it there.
Okay, in Pearl. Okay.
Yeah, I'll put it in Pearl. Okay. Can you see, as long as you can see my screen? Can you still see my screen, Jeanette?
Yes, I can now.
Okay, as long as you can see my screen, I'll go back and put them in. So what happens is if I put something in the chat box, you don't focus on me talking, you focus on something else. I'm a college professor. I know how this works. So I just want you to be in the moment with me, because you need to watch this video 17,000 times. I am going to just put little things in there, so just stay with me. Okay. So DBT is Marsha Linehan. So very much like a CBT, for the test, it's only used for borderlines. In the real world, it's used for other things, but for the test, borderlines. The only personality disorder that has a treatment. So she says, mindfulness, learn to enjoy the moment. Good or bad, no judgment, just enjoy the moment. I always say, if you see my other videos, I'll say, when you walk in to take the test, right? You're sitting in that room, take the time to just be, I say gratitude, but take the time just to enjoy the moment. I'm here, right? So whether I pass or fail, I am in this room. So take the time to take that and breathe in, enjoy just the moment. Mindfulness is, I have the app on my phone. I have to stop what I'm doing and supposedly look around the room. I don't have time for the app. Why does it go off on the wrong times? Right? Can I just tell it when I want to be mindful? So it won't let me. I don't have to be mindful right now, but it really just means stop what you're doing and enjoy the moment. Okay. Emotional regulation. You know that my borderlines, right? Up and down and up and down and up and down, up and down. I love you, hate you. Margaret Baylor says because they never bonded with that one person. That's why their emotions are always up and down, up and down. Distress tolerance. Borderlines, when it gets uncomfortable, they just leave. On the test, what it looks like is anytime you see a question that says, I've seen 7 therapists before you, but you're the very best, red flags, borderline, borderline, borderline. And the answer is always boundaries. That's a typical test question, okay, of knowing that what that looks like. Of course, interpersonal. Remember, INTER, inter, always means with other people. Okay. Interpersonal means I have relationships with other people. Interstate, right? We cross the states. Intercourse requires two people. Intersex, those are people that used to call it the hermaphrodite term. It's people that have both X and Y chromosomes. I have both boy and girl parts. So INTER. Inter is the same as multiple disciplinary. And inter is a multiple disciplinary, all the same thing. INTRA is inside of me. INTRA is most often a Freudian term. Introspective, looking inside of me. INTRA. Okay. When you see those prefixes, that always means something. Okay. So those are my Margaret Mailer, my neo-Freudians. I think Adler and self-psychology is next in that one. Yes, Rudolf Drucker, and who's next?
Eric.
Or do I go to?
It
So
says
Eric, go ahead.
Eric from.
So again, those are neo-Freudians. So you don't have to know all those. Margaret Mailer's the only one that you really need to know.
Rogers was, if you're working in a book, was Rogers.
Yes, Rogers. Okay, well, so what did Carl Rogers do?
He created, was it self-centered or personal, client-centered therapy.
Okay,
Saying
which
that
means
the client, I was gonna say client is always right, but they dictate how therapy goes, creates their goals, and it's all about
Okay.
them. And we're just
Okay.
there to support them as therapists.
so. You're absolutely right. Now, what's the verbiage? The verbiage. So the goal is, as we're learning the theorists, we need to learn each theorist's words. So when you
Okay.
get that one line on the question, you'll know who they're talking about. It's going to tell you is who you're talking about. So what words would belong to him? In the book, what does it say? Okay, yeah,
Unconditional positive regard, positive
Got it.
regard.
got it. Okay, so what does that mean?
Unconditional is you're loving their, doesn't matter the errors, I'm gonna love you as you are. Conditional mean I'm placing something on my regard for you.
Okay, so and you're right, you're absolutely right. So what his theory says is that the client can fix themselves.
Yeah, they're the
Okay.
expert of their lives.
Got it. So a Rogerian therapy is great. You go, wow, tell me more. That's great, right? That's all I gotta do. What do I tell me more? What, right? I'm not giving any feedback. It's your choice. It's your life. But the goal is I have to provide unconditional positive regard. So if the client tells me that, they murdered their wife 3 years ago and they want to talk about it, I've got to be congruent. The look on my face has to match my words, right? So what's coming out of my mouth has to match my body. He called that genuineness. So I really have to be okay with whatever the client tells me. I have to be genuine, real. So unconditional positive regard, right? So I'm sorry. Positive regard, genuineness. What else is another term that he uses?
Empathy or empathetic.
Okay. And so what does that mean? Give me an example of empathy.
Understanding, listening.
How is it different than sympathy?
Like empathy is like when you're able to put yourself in like somebody else's shoes.
Okay, give me an example. You're right. Now give me an example.
So like if a client did say like I killed my wife 3 years ago, a therapist could say something like really describe how they may have felt during that experience. Like, oh, I'm sure your adrenaline was pumping when you were killing your wife. Oh, you must have been so angry. Like,
I don't know if I'd say the adrenaline pumping. I bet it feel good when you were stabbing her, right? It's a kind of passion. Oh. Right now, we're not going quite that far, but yes. Yes, absolutely. So yes. So empathy is really, so when he made that decision at that time in his head, putting myself in his shoes, because at that time it made sense to him, right? So that's truly empathy, is putting myself in his shoes when he made that decision. It made sense to him at that time, and I can understand that. Right? A mom who leaves her babies in the car to go get drugs. I understand that she's an addict and she needs to get her next high. And it wasn't that she said, hey, I'm going to kill my kids today, but she's an addict. They're your friends, our clients and friends, give them sympathy. We can empathize. We can understand at the time why they made that decision. Okay. Erica, by the way, if he tells me that he killed his wife 3 years ago, do I report that?
No,
Absolutely. I do not. I do not. I do not. No one's in imminent danger. She already did.
Yep.
Okay. If she tells she's going to leave the office, he's going to go kill somebody, then I'm going to ask him if he has a plan. I'm going to gather more information first, and then I'm going to report it. Very good. Very good. Okay. So Carl Rogers came along purposely. In that book, the first line of that says what? Who's got their book in front of you? What does the first line say
Rogers
about Carl Rogers?
reacted against the directive psychoanalytic approach, which put the counselor in charge of giving advice, teaching, and interpreting.
Absolutely. So what happened is Carl Rogers said, Freud, you're wrong. You're not the expert. This is their lives. They're the expert. Okay. So Freud, so he came along purposely against all of those theoretical approaches that said that the therapist is the expert. I know what's best for you, and said, no, you're not. Okay. So he did not diagnose. How come? Come on, somebody. Y'all got a master's degree. They didn't give it to you. And you went to high school. Why didn't he diagnose? Because he didn't want to. He didn't want to get paid.
So he felt that if you had a diagnosis, that you would be working toward that diagnosis versus the client's goals. Is it something similar like that?
What he said is it pathologicalizes somebody's problem. So to that term pathology, pathologicalize is how we get to the DSM. Pathology is you're crazy. So if I give you a diagnosis, then that kind of labels you, and I'm not trying to do that. Okay, so he did not believe in diagnosing. Okay, he also his role was more of we're equals in therapy. Where Freud came along and said, "I know everything, you poor dumb woman. I'll tell you exactly what to do." Carl Rogers said, "No, we're equal." Okay. He also used that word phenomenological or phenomenology. What's that? Your phenomenon, how you see the world, right? If you tell me that the world is full of, demons and everybody's out to get you, then okay. Okay. Whatever your phenomenon is, however you see it, I'm going to stick within your belief system. Okay. Is Carl Rogers the best theory for everybody? Not at all. Not at all. My pedophile was talking about how he molested his kids. I'm not going to go, well, no, I'm not doing that. No. My alcoholic that's in denial. We are not using a appliance-centered approach. We're going to use the trans theoretical theory of change. You're in pre-contemplation. You need to change. I'm not using Carl Rogers with that. So as we learn the theories, I would not use a Rogerian approach with someone who's in denial. They're going to stay in denial if I don't confront them, aren't they? So we wouldn't use that for everybody. We would not. Okay. Knowing the verbiage though, phenomenological, knowing that, again, it's client-centered, it's the client's choice. And whatever they say, I'm going to support. Go ahead, Marcus.
What would be a good time to use it? Like what comes to my mind immediately is grief, maybe.
That would be fine. That'd be fine. Okay. So someone who doesn't have like a major mental health diagnosis. Okay. So for the test, depression, any mood disorder, the right answer is CBT and meds. cognitive behavior therapy. Okay. Changing your cognitions, changing the way that you think. So and the word also you might see is affective disorder, AFFECTIVE. And the effect is the look on your face that matches your mood. So CBT is the right answer. A question with Carl Rogers would say something like, because you could do it in a group session too. So let's say it's just a support group, right? Where people are coming in because they've all lost somebody, a grief support group, or they're all coming in, they're looking for partners, right? Whatever they're looking for, that is not a major mental health issue, then I can use whatever you believe is your problem, right? We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it, right? The goal though is the second part of that is that's when the client realizes the changes they need to make. Okay, so that's the second part. So the first part of therapy is like, okay, I'm great and all. But the second part is where it gets uncomfortable for the client, because then after they've emoted and share all their stuff with you, then they realize they need to make changes. I didn't tell them that. They have shared that. Okay.
So would it be more of like an intelligent person who maybe has self-awareness or something?
Yes, it would be. Yes, it would be. Yes, it would be. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So if we have, I was doing mentoring with a client this week or last week. And she was seeing a couple, she does therapy online. And she was seeing a couple, and I don't know where they live, very rural. I don't know. She's lower country. That was the term she used with me. And the man was talking about something, and she said her first question to the man was, what was your trauma? So people that have gone to college, people that are highly educated, we can recognize what that term means. But I wouldn't start off with someone who maybe didn't finish high school with what is your trauma? Right? That's not terminology we would use. That's technical jargon. We just wouldn't use that with a client who doesn't appear to be as educated. So absolutely, absolutely. Okay. So one of the other ones that I definitely would not use with everybody is existentialism. Did you go over that one? Anybody? It's more at the bottom of the book as we go down. It's definitely after Carl Rogers and some other people. Existentialism is
Gestalt.
not Gestalt. Keep going down. Come down. You'll see existentialism. Gestalt I would use with everybody. I'll come back to that one. But when we're talking about ones that I would not use with everybody. So existentialism is, why do I exist? What is my purpose?
Oh, man.
I'm not using that with a 6-year-old. Your purpose is to get up and go to school today. Your purpose is to do what your mom and daddy says for you to do, right? I'm not using that with a kid. I'm also not using that with someone who's barely putting food on their table. Right? Existentialism, Rollo May, Viktor Frankl, and Yalom. Yalom is our group guy and the curative factor. So they're all existentialists. So the theory is based on Viktor Frankl. He was born in a Nazi concentration camp. He was not born. He was in a Nazi concentration camp, right? He was a Jewish psychiatrist, and he watched all of his family members die. Everybody he knew was killed, and he didn't die. So the theory is, why do I exist? What is my purpose? Okay. That's
We
for
didn't
someone.
study, we didn't get to him yet.
And you're
Okay.
really okay. You're okay. So I'm just going to go ahead and, because we're talking about ones that would actually be, which ones we'd use it with. So just go back and watch this video. So existentialism. So again, so Viktor Frankl, he didn't die. So his theory is that all of us have a purpose in life. And anxiety comes from not fulfilling that purpose. Right? So Saddleback Church, Rick Warren, probably now 20 years ago, wrote a book, Purpose Driven Life. What is my purpose? Why do I exist? So he said that pain, there's a reason for pain. Anxiety is not doing the best, not fulfilling my purpose. Okay. So I wouldn't use that with everybody, would I? No, not if I'm trying to keep the lights on today. That's my only purpose. So that's a theory that you're going to use with upper class people who don't have bills to pay, right? I talk about the self-actualization, the top of Maslow's chart. Okay. And that was the goal of Carl Rogers as well, to be self-actualized, to be the very best person you can be. Okay. Existentialism is their purpose, people who are here, right? I've got all those basic needs met, food, clothing, shelter, then I'm up here. So I'm trying to figure out why am I here? What is my purpose? I think that's also a theory you'll see when someone who's survived any kind of traumatic event, right? A hurricane, a plane crash, where everybody else should have died, any kind of those things, you're going to use existentialism because they're trying to figure out what is my purpose. Okay. He also talked about logotherapy. That's the name of his book. And logotherapy is also going to be synonymous with existentialism. Okay, so why do I exist? What is my purpose? So that's also one that we wouldn't use with everybody. Okay, so the first ones we're talking about are most often some that we would just kind of use. And again, these are theories that you learned. You wrote a paper on it. You made an A on it. I know you did. You did some research, right? You pulled out the book. You got an A on like learning what CBT is and all that good stuff. And now you're like, what does it really mean? Okay, so we're trying to put theory into action so you know what it looks like on the test and also in real life. Okay, so then let's go to Davida. Let's go. Next one is Gestalt. That's Fritz Perls. What's his theory? Anybody?
Like about being in like the here and now, and like kind of the
Right.
idea of unfinished business and being like whole and authentic.
Absolutely, absolutely. How do I get rid of my unfinished business?
Addressing it like immediately, like working on it right then and there.
Not at all. What he talked about was the empty chair or the 2-chair technique. Okay. The book says that he is experiential, not existential, experiential. Okay. I'm going to do an experiment. Okay. I'm going to do something that concrete, literally, figuratively do something. So the goal is that there's all this stuff back there and I got to get rid of. Okay. So it's not necessarily right. So I want to be in the here and now, but I can't be in the here and now because I got so much baggage that I got to get rid of. Okay. So let's say, and they don't have to be dead, right? They don't have to be dead, but they definitely can be dead. So you're somebody died and you didn't have a chance to say goodbye to them. Okay. So that's the empty chair, right? I'm telling them, oh, mom, I'm sorry I didn't say this. I wish I could have done that. All those things, right? It works great with drug and alcohol people, saying goodbye to your friends, saying goodbye to your drug, saying goodbye to your habits. And the most time, yes, Jennifer, absolutely. Childhood traumas, absolutely, absolutely. They were spending most of the time in the therapy getting rid of the unfinished business. That's where most of the time belongs. Okay, so we may take 7, 8, 10, 12, 15 sessions getting rid of that unfinished business. But once we get rid of that, that's when I can be in the here and now. And I can't do that because I've still got unfinished business. I don't know which video you watch, if I share with you already, because my husband died about 8 years ago when he was cremated. I brought him home, put the box under my bed. Not in an urn, in the same box. It came in the US mail and it said human remains on top of the box. And I put out, yes, I did. Yes, I did. I put it under my bed. Okay. So yes, I did. And it wasn't even him physically there. It was that emotionally, he was still very much alive and a part of the family. He was still very much ruling what happened in the house. The kids say, well, daddy would have done, right? And it really, part of me going to therapy to be a whole person was getting rid of that. And again, not necessarily physically the person, but the fact is that he wasn't here anymore. And everything that I thought and believed about myself was based on what he had said about me. So I needed to let go of that because I couldn't be a whole person until I got rid of that. My kids couldn't be whole people until we got rid of that. So that's the empty chair, is getting past that unfinished business, things that you just got to let go of. So yes, and again, but the part of that therapy, and it's called experiential because you literally talk to the chair, or it's a 2-chair technique, right? So I'll be in this chair and then someone is pretending to be my spouse in that chair, or the drug and alcohol, and I'm talking to them. I'm getting rid of that business. Okay. And then once I get rid of that, I can focus on being a whole person. So in that thing, did he talk about the what's that term called? Shoot. Who has your book in front of you? Tell me, read what he says.
Where do you want me to start?
It's not that long.
Individual experience needs, that part,
Okay.
read that part.
Yes.
Individuals experience needs to the extent a need is in the forefront, it represents the figure, and the other needs are the ground.
Okay. So before that, the sentence talks about figure ground. Okay. So do you know what that means? Figure ground?
No.
Yes, you do. You just didn't know that you know what it meant. Okay. So figure ground is when you look at the picture and whether you see the face or the vase. I'll share my screen. You've all seen that, haven't you?
Yes.
Absolutely. That belongs to Gestalt. Fritz Perls is his name, and Gestalt. So what he says, now read again what you said to me.
Individuals experience needs. To the extent a need is in the forefront, it represents the figure, and other needs are ground.
Okay. So whatever you see first, the face or the vase, this is kind of a analogy, is what is the most important pressing need. And the goal is, so if you see the face or the vase first, whatever, the most pressing is what we're going to take care of, right? That's what we're going to use to get rid of that business. And then what happens is he says that the other then will come to the forefront. So figure ground is whether you see the faces or the vases. So in Gestalt psychology, it's known as identifying a figure from the background. I know y'all seen this 1,000 times. You just didn't know it was Gestalt, did you?
Mm-hmm.
And when you read in the book, you still didn't know it was Gestalt, did you? Okay, so that's all it means. That's all it means. Okay. So
Wait, what does
this
it mean if you see the face first?
he says, so it's really just, it's your perception. Okay. It's not literally the face, but whatever is presenting in front of you, whether you see the face or the vase, whatever you see first is what your presenting problem is.
Okay.
Okay. So it's not literally whether you see the face or the vase, but it's kind of recognizing like what is impressing, what's the most important to me. And then that's where the Gestalt comes in. I've got to get rid of the unfinished business. Okay. Of course, Wikipedia is always right. Can't use it for your papers, but it's a great place to study from. And whenever you're studying, I always want you to always increase your vocabulary. So if there are terms that you don't know when you're studying or taking questions, take the term, put it in Google, put plus counseling or plus psychology. This test is very high in verbiage. You've got to increase your vocabulary. Okay. And the way to do that is as you're reading, but always put in plus psychology or plus counseling. So you'll understand the verbiage as it relates to you. Okay. Okay. Figure ground organization is a type of perceptual grouping that is vital necessity for recognizing objects through vision. In Gestalt psychology, it is known as identifying a figure from its background. Okay. And I don't want to go into any more of that because you don't really need to know that. All you need to know is when they say face and vase, this is the figure ground. This is what it means. I know you better go to work and use this tomorrow. Okay. Sounds smart. According to Gestalt, that picture you see, right? Because Gestalt says whatever's presenting in front of you is what you see. And then we're going to deal with that. We're going to put that in the empty chair. We're going to get rid of it so we can keep going. And then whatever in the background will come to the foreground.
So how would this be different from Freud then? With
so Gestalt is a bit Freudian.
Okay.
I remember. So he would never say he's neo-Freudian. He would never say that. But he did believe in the unconscious. If you keep reading, he believed in dream work, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So he wouldn't label himself as a neo-Freudian, but yeah, he still believed in the unconscious. Anyone that does dream work, that means that your dreams mean something to you, is still a unconscious person. Okay. It wasn't until we get to our newer people, right? We talk about Glasser, DBT, that we totally got rid of the unconscious stuff. But most of our other theorists still believe that some of the stuff was unconscious. Because there's no sex, baby. That's why it's not Freud. Okay. If there's a sex question, it's Freud. Make sense? Okay. I'm just ringing. I'm trying to tap into your pre-conscious because you learned this before. You really did. You wrote a paper, you got an A, you did. Okay. So I'm just trying to tap into that pre-conscious and make sure that we really just come back and relive this. I'm not teaching you brain surgery. I'm not teaching you dentistry. You know this stuff. Okay. Okay. I won't take it back. I'll tell my students, you were taught this stuff, whether or not you actually learned it. That is not my fault, but you were taught this stuff. Okay, let me put this in the chat box, guys. I'm putting it in. It's in the Pearl, so you can go back and get that from the Pearl site.
Dr.
It's in
Perrin, I
the
have a
message.
question.
Yes.
How would they keep referencing book titles by each theorist? Is it important to memorize or?
So
know
it
the
is.
title?
Let's go back. Let's go back. So in for Fritz Perl's book, you don't need to know. That's not going to be on there. Okay. But when we talk we get down to existentialism, man's search for meaning, as well as logotherapy, both of those you need to know. Okay. We've talked about Eric Bernet. He wrote the book, The Games People Play. That's an important one. Okay. Okay. So I'm skipping Adler for now, with Rudolf Drucker. The only time you'll ever see Rudolf Drucker is with Adlerian theory. I'm going to come back and pick him up later. So then who is after Gestalt?
Eric Bernet.
Ah, did we get to him?
No, we stopped. The assignment was to stop at Gestalt 1 through. We went through 6, but yes, we didn't get to him. Yeah.
It's quite all right. We're just going to keep adding on. Any question up to this point? Any questions that you've seen on a test question, you've seen someplace else that you didn't understand about the theorists that we've covered? Okay. The goal is to learn the verbiage. So when we go and look at questions, you'll know who that is. Just if it whether it has one line of her personality, a whole paragraph, you'll know, because I know that's something Gestalt would say. Fritz Perls. I know something that Carl Rogers would say. Go ahead, Davida.
So I did have a question. I was a little confused about the Gestalt. So it said in the beginning of that section that it was based on existential principles.
No, experiential principles.
It says existential. This approach is based on existential principles. And then later on, it said this is an experiential therapy. So is it a typo, you think?
No, it's not. No, it's not. But I don't want you to tie existentialism with him.
Okay, that's why I was getting.
I just don't want you to tie that with him, because you're not going to sit on the test. So existentialism is like, why am I here? The bigger picture. And I don't want you to tie that with him. The test is not going to say that to you.
So what about holistic? Can we keep that with him?
Yes, because the Gestalt is to be a whole person.
Okay.
Right? It's a holistic approach, because you're going to be a whole person. You're going to be a full Gestalt. The word Gestalt means whole. Okay. Gestalt has its own defense mechanisms. You might see that as well, but we're not going to learn those. They're just not going to see them. Okay. Okie dokie. So then Eric Bernet, he did transactional analysis. What does Eric Bernet say? So he sounds like a Freudian, but he said, I'm not a Freudian. He said, I'm not, this is all stuff, right? So do you see my screen? Am I sharing the parent child adult? Okay. So what did Eric Bernet say? What is his theory? What's on my screen, if that makes it easy.
We have 3 personalities. Or personalities, ego states.
Ego state. Again, verbiage matters. Verbiage matters, okay? Sorry about that, guys. My lips are getting chapped. Okay, so we all have 3 ego states inside of us: a parent, adult, and a child. I talk all day long. I started at 8 o'clock this morning. So I've got 2 more after you, and my lips are like, ah. Okay. So right now, I'm talking to adult. Okay. I'm not talking down to you. I'm not belittling you. We're talking adult to adult. And that's the appropriate ego state we should come from. Okay. What happens sometimes, though, is when I am in I'm coming from a place where I am maybe acting childish or silly or wanting my way. Sometimes I'm coming from a childlike state. Okay. And when I come from that childlike behavior, that childlike language, it's very helpful if someone in my life says, yo, Pam, shut up. Okay. Not that nice, but really, I need someone to come to my rescue and say, Pam, nope, nope, nope. Okay. So what he talks about is relationships between people, whether it's your boss, whether it's your spouse, whether it's anybody at work, it can be in a group setting. The relationships are how we talk to each other. The scripts, the word scripts or scriptless life is words we're looking for. Okay. So the goal of this theory is to get rid of the script you learned in childhood or to live a scriptless life. Okay. Because in childhood, I learned to be manipulative. I learned how to get what I want. I learned how to act and talk like a child. Okay. So in a complementary setting, if I'm coming from a place where I'm acting like a child, I'm hoping that someone in my circle will come from their parent stage and say, hey, Pam, not okay. Okay. If you've seen a recent video, I've been in court with my dog like the last couple months. And the last time, my lawyer who charged me $3.50 an hour, and we were in dog court for 6 hours. 6 hours. People thought it was a murder trial. It was dog court. My neighbor's dog tried to eat my dog twice. Okay. And my lawyer said to me, do you want to win or do you want to speak? Now, you know me, I'm a therapist. I want to get on that trial and I want to tell that man exactly what I think of him, right? I will chew him out and tell him blah, 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 and your mom and your daddy and blah, blah, blah. You know, I got all the stuff I want to say. That was probably not the best choice, right? Because, you know, as I look like an angry Black woman on stage, and then his lawyer cross-examines me, I am probably too emotional to even like, I can't even lie right because I'm like so into this. So my lawyer said, Pam, do you want to win or do you want to speak? And he said, I think you just want to win. He was coming from a parent stage because that was what was best for this case. I wanted to speak. I wanted to get up there. Right? I want to tell him that, you know, I live in Tennessee, like, and he's from like Georgia. I want to tell him it's, you know, not my fault. His mom and daddy were first cousins. That really wasn't. It probably wasn't the best thing to say in court, right? So, and I own 2 guns, and I did threaten to shoot the dog. I sure did. Okay. Again, probably things I should have said in court. So my lawyer, coming from the parent stage, said, Bam, go in the corner and shut up. Okay. That's what that means. Okay. So again, in other situations, so maybe I am in a relationship, anybody throwing a tantrum, but I don't want it now, right? And your partner says, maybe we can't afford that right now. Right? Occasionally, I need someone to say to me, this is not okay, Pam. So that's called complementary. Normally, again, we're coming adult to adult, but occasionally if we come from different ego states, because one of us is acting childish, it's okay. Complementary. Okay. The cross one is where I'm in a relationship and I'm speaking to you like an adult, but you're speaking down to me. But I'm aware of it. It's crossed. I'm aware of it. I married someone who was 40 years older than me and he wants to tell me what to do. Okay. I'm aware of it. I speak like adult to him and he says, Pam, did you remember to whatever today? Okay. I personally, especially when I was younger, I worked in lots of jobs. When I graduated, I was 27 with my master's, and I was 27 with my master's and licensed at 27. I thought I knew everything. I worked in many, many agencies or many times when I had, especially older white men who thought I knew nothing and talked down to me. I kept my mouth shut. Okay. Because again, I'm starting my career. I want to get up there. I was adult to them. but they talked it down to me. But I was aware of it. I chose to stay in that relationship. I chose to stay in that job. I was aware of it. Okay. The problem is the last one, when it's the ulterior motive. The ulterior motive is when the person, I'm talking to an adult, and you say you're talking adult to me, but you're really talking down to me. But you're doing it on the sly. You're manipulating me. Okay. So I'm talking to you like an adult, but you say, oh, I'm like, hey, baby, we're equals in this relationship, right? Talk to me like we're equals. And he says, I am. And then he says something, well, I'd give you more money. We could have a joint bank account if you knew how to spend the money correctly. What? Right? I'd support your business if you're a little bit smarter. That's the ulterior. And he said, those are games. And the person is coming from the childlike state is doing it purposely, very manipulative and games. Okay. So the games people play is the book. So he called these, so you might see 3rd degree games. He said, those are definitely, there's 1st and 2nd degree. You won't see those on the test. The 3rd degree are the ones that can really cause a problem. So if we look at this, so one of the things it talks about is, okay, so the 3rd type of transaction is ulterior. Ulterior transactions involve 2 or more ego states in parallel. One portion of the transaction is generally verbal and the other is unspoken psychological transaction. For example, if a manager tells an employee, this is a really intriguing problem, but it may be too hard for you. He's effing with your head. Okay. And that was the problem, he said. Okay. So ulterior transactions are manipulative and increase the risk of communication failure and conflict. A better approach is to avoid innuendos and to break the conversation down into a set of complementary transactions. Okay. So his book is his theory is how we talk to each other and how we purposely come from that childlike state to get our way. Okay. Okay. Again, so most of the people that I work with that are in practice are very eclectic. This means you use a little bit of everything. And most of the people I know have used some of these theories before. Has anybody used some kind of, and you might not have given him credit and you might not have said that, but hey, like, don't talk to her that way. Don't talk to him that way. That's not okay. In couples therapy, that's not okay. You're both equal partners. You don't talk to that way to your spouse. We'll do that all the time, but not realize where it came from. So this is Eric Berne. It's actually Berne, but sometimes you'll see Berne, but it's Berne. He was a German guy. And this happened in the early, so again, I graduated from college, like, dinosaurs roamed the land. But when it came out, it was the most popular therapy ever. It's like, oh my gosh. And I just graduated from college. And I remember going back to take a workshop on learning his theory because he was the bomb diggity at the time. Okay. So transactional analysis, he's analyzing the transactions between the people in your party. So again, it doesn't have to be a couple. It can definitely be, it can be in a group setting. It can be in any kind of environment with other people. Okay. Those who taken the test before, recall seeing this one? Well, yes, Dr. Pam, I do. No, Dr. Pam, I failed miserably and I was probably on the test, but I didn't see it. Either way.
The last one for me.
Okay. So
I do not recall.
okay, exactly. Good answer. I will plead the 5th, right? So exactly. So that's so again, most of them are on there. And if it doesn't say directly, I mean, people just don't know. You just don't know. Let me show you what it looks like in a question. There we go. Do you see 35? Am I sharing? Okay.
Yes.
If you've seen this question before, bear with me, okay? A counselor works at a hospital, which allows a maximum of 8 group counseling sessions on an outpatient basis, okay? The counselors began to start a new group consisting primarily of recovering alcoholics. Under these circumstances, because the counselor is flexible in the therapeutic approach, which therapeutic approach she can use, she decides the best approach would be. How the hell do I know? Right? Okay, exactly. I don't know. Okay, so let's go. Let's stay in the question. We're always going to spend more time in the question. Okay. So what I know is that my people, I get 8 group sessions. It's a group theory, right? 8 group sessions. They're outpatient. Okay. And they're recovering alcoholics. Okay. So I know that recovering alcoholics is the same as an alcoholic. I'm trying to stay clean, right? Denial is still real. So I can pick any approach that I want. Now we've gone all over these, all 4 of these, okay? So then transactional analysis, right? That's the ego state, which ego state you're coming from. Client-centered is Carl Rogers. The client is the expert. Psychoanalytic is Freud. There's some stuff in my unconscious I'm trying to pull up. And existentialism is going to be Viktor Frankl and Rollo May. Viktor Frankl, Rollo May, and Yalom. Yalom's the group guy, right? Okay. So then, so any idea what I would rule out first? Any thoughts? I've got 8 sessions.
B.
B. Sure.
What am I taking out?
B.
I'm taking out B, okay? Because I said earlier, alcohol, right? They lying, okay? And not purposely, that's part of the disease. That's part of the disease, right? B is out, okay? If I have 8 sessions, I said earlier, I talked about psychoanalytic is what we first started with, and now we do psychodynamic. Psychoanalytic was 3 to 5 years on my couch, and I charged $250 an hour, and insurance didn't ask me a thing. It was so great. It was so great, by the way. Okay, so I don't have 3 to 5 years. I'm taking out C2. If it's a psychodynamic, maybe, right? Because psychodynamic I can do in 12 sessions, but psychoanalytic really is like, what happened when you were 3 and it's all hidden in your unconscious. So B and C are out. Now I'm between A and D. Put your answer in my chat box, guys. Let me see what everybody thinks. And don't do groupthink. Groupthink is going to answer like everybody else answers. Don't do that. Pick your own answer. Half y'all had answers yet. Come on. I can see in the chat box. Put an answer in there. Okay. So I see that. Okay. So the answer is A. Now somebody tell me why. So I can tell you it's not D because D is existentialism. Why do I exist? What is my purpose? Your purpose is to stay clean. I can tell you that right now. So D can't be it, right? We're not looking at the bigger picture. Transactional analysis is because I'm in a group setting, and we're all recovering alcoholics, right? In a group setting, if I say to my group member, I've been clean for 3 days, I'm gonna go get a drink. What stage am I coming from? What ego state? What script am I using?
The child one.
The child one. I am. Alcoholics. The theory is like, right, wasn't alcoholic, always alcoholic. You've been clean for 3 days. You can't go have a drink. I'm coming from the childlike stage. I haven't had a drink in 3 days. I can go drink now. Or even I've been clean for 6 months. I can go have one. I'm hoping one of the other group members is coming from their parent stage and says, Pam, you know better. Yes, Janetta.
How long would like a transactional analysis session be?
So for most of the theories, we're going to assume 12 weeks.
Okay.
And because that's what insurance will pay for. The only one we're going to see any different is solution focus. That's 6 to 8. And psychoanalytic was what we don't use anymore because it literally was 3 to 5 years. That was before we had HMOs. That was before somebody regulated how many sessions I could charge. It was so great. I keep saying that, and it was so great. I went to school to become a trained psychoanalysis. I'm trained in hypnosis. My goal was like, you lay on my couch. I only had to see like 3 or 4 people a day, right? $250 an hour. And this is like in the early 90s. Like, it's so good. Then HMOs came in, they said, Pam, you have to come up with smart goals and reasons and stuff. Like, dang, this is too hard. Okay. So literally, psychodynamic is what you see now. So if you see the difference between the two of those, psychodynamic is the history, that's what Freud did, and psychoanalytic is what we do now. Okay. So this is a really tough one, right? The best way to get this one is just to understand the question. Understand the question. Spend all the time in the question. Everything they tell me in the question is there for a reason. Those are taking the test. Similar type of question. Well, yes, Dr. Pam, you're absolutely right. No way, Dr. Pam, not at all.
I don't even remember.
Okay, so you're still pleading the fifth. Okay, that's repression. You push it all the way down because it was too painful.
So Dr. Pam, I guess for me, I understood the question. I think for me, transactional analysis, how we talk to each other in communication, I don't
So
really
what were you
understand.
thinking? What were you thinking? What would my answer be?
I was thinking existential, what your purpose is, life purpose, but communication, I'm just not connecting it.
Okay. So existentialism again. So the anxiety is not being your best you. And I said earlier, those are not for people that are at the basic level struggling. Alcoholics in recovery, they're at the basic level trying to be clean. They're not where how do I exist? What is my purpose? They're just not there yet.
Okay.
Okay. Erica's got the same look, like, I don't know how we got there. Okay. So it literally is knowing your theorist enough. And this is a typical question. You'll get a scenario. You got to figure out which theory works the best. And you have to know the theories well enough.
Do you have a short on transactional analysis?
I do not. Okay. But literally what the book says and what I told you is all you need to know. Okay, hold on. We'll go back over it again. Okay. So the counselor works at a hospital and I have a maximum of 8 sessions. Okay. That was a key, 8 sessions. Okay. Also my theories, except for psychoanalytic, are going to be 8 to 12 sessions. Okay. I know that because that's content that I know about the theories. Okay. So then they're outpatient and they are primary recovering alcoholics. Those are the people in my group. So I have to know some content about alcoholism. I have to know some content about how alcoholics think, right? They're always in denial. Wasn't me, wasn't me. Right? Nobody ever showed up for drug treatment on their own. They came because they have a court date coming up. They came because they got arrested, right? And they fear they go to drug treatment before. Their wife said, you better go get treatment or I'm going to kick you out. No one has ever come to drug treatment on their own. They come into pretenses of being on their own, but they have never, ever, I've been in this field for 30 years. You don't show up on your own. I have to understand enough about that population to know, no. Okay. So knowing the population, and I can pick anyone I want. I'm not going to use client-centered. I am not going to stick with what you keep telling me. This is not the population where I'm going to give you unconditional positive regard. That's not helpful. Okay. Actually, the psychoanalytic approach, the psychodynamic approach is, and there's a theory for this with drug and alcohol users. So psychoanalytic approach would say that your mother pulled the bottle out of your mouth too soon, the nipple out of your mouth, right? That's your erogenous zone. And you keep drinking or smoking or doing drugs because you're trying to satisfy your erogenous zone. So if it was whenever it's Erica, I did not make it up. It's sex, baby. Okay. Your mouth, your anus, and oral, anal, phallic, latency, and genital. Those are Freud's psychosexual stages. He said that we were fully developed sexually by the time we were 5. Okay. Freud's theory, not Pam's theory, just teaching you Freud's theory, okay? So there's a theory in drug and alcohol theory on why people drink. And the Freudian theory says because your mother didn't satisfy your mouth and you're trying to always satisfy that mouth, okay? And existentialism is why do I exist? So Davida, let's go back to the book. So what does the book say about transactional analysis?
It's kind of really more this gives definitions, but it says, you want me to read all of it, or it says the
I
goal
do,
of
yeah.
therapy? Okay. The personality has 3 ego states: parent, adult, and child. A life script develops in childhood and influences a person's behavior. Many transactions with others can be characterized as games with the intent to avoid intimacy. Complementary transactions, adult to adult, lead to good communication. Cross transactions, adult to child and child to parent, lead to barriers to communication. The goal of therapy is to teach the client the language and ideas of transactional analysis in order to recognize ego state functioning and analyze one's transactions. Techniques include teaching concepts, helping diagnose, interpretation, and use of contracts and confrontation. And then it talks about the books.
Right. So if I tell you that's all you need to know, I promise you that's all you need to know.
Okay.
That's really it. Okay. So knowing scripts, ego state is a very confrontational. Someone that keeps coming from their childhood stage, I'm going to call you on it. Why do you keep talking that way to other people? Okay. So the book that he wrote is The Games People Play. Thomas Harris is also a TA person. He wrote, I'm okay, you're okay.
Mhm.
That's usually the wrong answer for the test.
Mm.
Okay, they're not going to ask you about Thomas Harris. Eric Bernet gets the call. He gets credit for this, even though he didn't do it by himself. He gets credit. And the book that you're going to see on the test is The Games People Play, because in that last stage, those are games.
Okay.
Okay. Let me show you another question of how well we just have to know our theorists. You see number 6? Okay. Again, it's a reading test. It's a reading test. The question is, the test is always going to give you enough clues to know exactly what you're looking for in the question. Okay. On a college campus, a group of minority students who were protesting their treatment, alluding to harassing comments by whites and what they believe is to be discrimination in the grading system by the professors. Okay. A group of minority students have got together. They're protesting, right? So 11 of the students have come to the campus counseling center and want to begin a group experience to arrive at some answers and find solutions. The most appropriate theoretical orientation of the counselor assigned to the group is what? Okay. So then the question is only asking me about the group. So I get to pick my theoretical orientation, but they're giving me some clues in the question. Theoretical orientation is which theory did you adhere to? Okay. So then anything before 11 doesn't even count. Okay. 11 of the students have, so anything before that doesn't matter, because all it asked me is the group. It doesn't ask me about the protest. It only asks me about the group. Okay. So 11 of the students have come to the counseling center and want to begin a group experience to arrive at some answers and find solutions. That's all they want. Okay. Which therapeutic orientation would help them come to some answers and find solutions? Okay. Let's behavioral, psychoanalytic, Gestalt, or client-centered. So psychoanalytic is who?
Freud.
Sex, baby.
Well, it's not that one.
Okay, there's no sex in the question, right? Exactly. Nothing unconscious. No, so it's Freud is out. Okay. And again, 3 to 5 years on my couch, some Freudian stuff. Okay. Gestalt is the here and now, getting rid of unfinished business. Do you see that in the question?
No.
No.
Okay.
No.
So now between A and D, and you're always going to get down to 2. The test is written that way to help you get down to 2. It's purposely written that way. Okay. So then find answers. And so answers and find solutions. Is that behavioral or client-centered?
Behavioral.
Behavior.
Yes, thank you. Yes. What words would belong to client-centered?
Empathetic, positive regard.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Do you see any of that in that question?
No.
Not at all. Not at all. Okay. So behaviorists, we haven't covered yet. Those are Skinner, Pavlov, Thorndike. Behaviorists do not care how you feel. Your mom died yesterday. I don't care. Still stop smoking. Behaviorists say that people are like animals. I can teach anyone to do anything with rewards and consequences. Okay. All I want to do is find some answers and get to solutions. Make sense?
I will say though, D almost tripped me up only because I was thinking like about our conversation about having a group and they want to come and have like a support group. So you just let them like get it out and you do the like positive regard and stuff. It almost got me, but
Okay. But do I see any of those words in the question?
no, that's the only reason why.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Knowing the verbiage, knowing what that theorist would do is the key to your answer. So that's what we're going to spend so much time on, knowing these theorists, right? Every theorist has their own verbiage, their own words. Okay. A Carl Rogerian would invite everybody in and we talk about forever. And I wouldn't say a word. I would say, right. So, okay, that's not going to have to find solutions, not quickly. Because and Carl Rogers project, you have to figure it out yourself. Okay, Davida, talk to me like Dr. Pam, you lying.
No, I'm fine. I'm fine.
Really, ask me questions. Ask me
No,
questions.
honestly, I'm okay. That
Okay.
particular question, I was fine with
Okay.
that. Yeah.
Okay. Understand that. Understand how we get there.
Behavior solutions, yes.
Got it. So behaviorists do not care.
About feelings.
Not at all. If any question about how you feel, it's not a behaviorist. Okay. Skinner said you are all like people. You're all like animals. Skinner would say that if we want to really decrease the crime in America, every time that you stole something, we'll cut off your fingers.
Mm.
What will happen to our crime rate? Right? People walk around like this, or we had no crime. Right? He said rewards and consequences. That's it. Anybody that's a FBA or done any behavior work with kids, especially autistic kids, we don't discuss why. There's just consequences or rewards. That's it. Solutions and answers. I don't care why they did that. I don't care if the grading system's wrong. I don't care. Just change the behavior. Okay. Okay, let's go. I want to go back to my textbook. I really want to spend more time on learning as opposed, because I know most of you have done 1,000 questions and that is not how we study. We really have to learn the content. Okay, so then after, so TA, okay, and who's next? In the Hellwig book.
Existence.
Okay, existentialism, read it for me.
Other existentialists include Soren Kierkegaard, Paul
Sam.
Tillich, Martin Heidegger, and Jean-Paul Sartre.
Yeah, once again, Jean-Paul Sartre. He was a really cool guy, but he's on the test.
Phenomenology is the basis of existential therapy. Phenomenology is the study of our direct experiences taken at their face value. And we have freedom of choice and are responsible for our fate.
Got it. So you'll see that existentialism also uses that word phenomenological view. right? It talks about the person's view. How you see the phenomenon is all that matters. Okay, that's all that matters. How my client sees it. Okay, it talks about anxiety in there, doesn't it, as well?
Yes.
Keep reading.
Anxiety and guilt are central concepts. Anxiety is the threat of non-being, and guilt occurs because we fail to fulfill our potential. The goal of existential
Okay, hold
therapy
on. So anxiety is what?
is the threat of non-being
Okay. So
and
what
guilt.
he said is we all have a purpose. And if I'm struggling with my purpose, struggling with what I'm supposed to be doing in life, what is my calling? Why do I exist? That causes my anxiety. Okay. That's the Freudian term would be neurosis, right? But existentialism wouldn't say that. But that's why I'm walking around like, again, I think about, do you remember the movie Bucket List?
Mhm.
Remember that movie? Okay, if you're not old enough, then go Google it. So the bucket list is like what's his name? Really rich guy, and he wants to do this thing, and the other guy is like the black guy, and he's like just trying to pay the bills. So it's like the guy who's just trying to pay his bills, right? He's trying to get out of the hospital. They're both in the hospital, by the way. He's trying to pay his bill. Morgan Freeman, that's what it is, and he just wants to pay his bills. He just wants to get by every day. And the other patient, right? What's his name? Anyway, yes, wants to do all these. They want to go see like the Dalai Lama. They want to go do all these things. So existentialism is not for someone who's just trying to pay their bills. Right? Existentialism is, I've done that. I've raised my kids. Now, what is my purpose? Why am I here? Okay. And however, again, the client sees the world, it's up to them. Okay. He also talks about choice. In that, it should also talk about freedom of choice in that one. Keep reading.
Freedom of choice.
Mhm.
So the goal of existential therapy is the understanding of one's being, one's awareness of who one is and who one is becoming, awareness of freedom and choosing responsibility or our goals or other goals.
Got it. So I choices I make are up to me. Okay. But again, the goal is to help the client decrease that anxiety, to help them figure out, why do they exist? Why are they here? What is their purpose?
The authentic relationship is important in existential therapy.
Mhm.
And then it goes into client-centered counseling techniques are appropriate.
And client-centered, of course, goes back to Carl Rogers, right? So you see that word phenomenological view, that's in both Carl Rogers as well as Viktor Frankl, how the client sees the world.
Logotherapy is the name of Viktor Frankl's counseling theory found in his book, Man's Search for Meaning, which followed his concentration camp experience. The principles underlining his theory are individuals. A is motivation to find meaning in their life journey. B is freedom to choose what they do, think, and how they react. And C is with freedom of choice comes personal responsibility.
Okay. Makes sense. Jeanette, you just have to know the verbiage. You don't have to agree with it. You just have to know. So Jeanette, what do you do?
I'm a
Is
school
it Jeanette or Janetta? Jeanette.
It's Janetta.
Janetta. I'm sorry. Oh, Janetta. What? You're a school counselor. So what
Yeah.
age do kids you work with?
6th through 8th, middle.
Yeah, they just, oh gosh, I'm gonna just bow down and give you praise. Okay, they
Mhm.
stink at that age. I just remember my kids at that age, I wanted to like burn all their shoes. Okay, they just stink. They do. All the hormonal changes, and the boys are this tall, the girls are this tall. I'm like, oh, awful age.
All the drama.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Okay. So you can't have a real conversation about like growing up and sex and stuff because they're not ready. Half of them are giggling and half of them are like, so anyway, it's such a difficult population. I was a school social worker for many years. So definitely I've done my duty. So I give you props. I do. Okay. But so existentialism would be someone who, a client who would come to you that maybe, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to cruise in December. I cruise every year. And on the Facebook page, you meet up with people who are going to be on the same cruise with you before you go. Okay. So I'm talking to this person, not just sometimes this person, and he cruises 4 times a year. I'm like, are you retired? Like, how can you cruise 4 times a year? Like, what? Right? He cruises by himself. So my therapist hat is like so curious. I want to know, like, has he ever been married? Is he single? Does he have kids? Like, what is his job? He said he wasn't retired. And my therapist hat is like asking all these questions. And
Right.
if I were seeing him, I would use an existential theory because I want to know, like, what is your purpose?
Mhm.
Because I'm thinking he said to me that his one of the things he did, he took a motorcycle ride. He lives in my state, I live in Tennessee. He said, I took a motorcycle ride from Tennessee to LA.
Mm.
I'm thinking, so I guess you don't have a wife because your wife would have not been okay with that. You ain't got no kids because the kids would be like, "My daddy, where you at?" Right.
Right.
So he's the kind of person I just want to know, like, what his purpose is and what is his meaning and why he does what he does. So if I were his therapist, I would use that therapy. I'm just like, my therapy hat is like always curious, right? We always get to ask questions. But that's a theory I would use. Like, why?
Okay.
And I'm assuming that money's not an issue because he cruises 4 times a year, right? I'm assuming that work is not an issue because most of us don't have that many vacation days.
Right.
So that is my thought of him is why are you here? What is your purpose in life? So that's for people who really don't have to worry about the basic things. All my bills are paid. I've raised my kids or that's money's not an issue. And I'm still trying to find my purpose. And I've probably never had a meaningful career because most of us, our purpose is in our career, our family, our career. So I probably never had one of those because I'm still searching for meaning. Okay. Or I survived one of my friends. She's a younger friend and she was shot in the head.
Mm.
And she's fine. You would never know. There's a scar right here, but you would never, ever know. And she's 30, she's almost 30. And that's where she's at now. Like, okay, God, like, okay. So, she was in school at the time and she major depression after this happened, like trying to get her act together. The guy still hasn't gone to prison. And that's where she's at. She's trying to figure out like, okay, so what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? Yeah. I didn't die. So what am I supposed to do now? So that is existentialism. And the anxiety, according to Viktor Frankl, would be because she can't figure out what she's supposed to do. Why she's still here. Did that help at all?
Yes. I just get confused with the anxiety part.
I have never woke up one day wondering, what is my purpose? Not one single day. Okay. Whether my kids or my spouse or my dog or my business, like somebody needed me. I have never woke up going, okay, what is my purpose? Never. So that would not be a therapy for me. Never. Okay. So, but again, it depends on, it's really about learning the theorist. That's all it means. What would existentialism person say? Okay. Am I sharing my screen? Again, I'll put this in chat box. So again, the verbiage, right? Freedom of will, responsibility, the will to meaning. Okay. So again, you have to put this in context, the concentration camps, right? So all these Jewish people were living their lives. They were great. They had businesses and it was a great life. And suddenly Hitler comes in and says, no, I'm going to kill you all just because of your religious beliefs. Like, okay, this is like World War II and life suddenly just changes for everybody. Imagine losing everything you've ever had. Wealthy business people had their houses and their stuff. And he just said no. And then you survive. And everybody around you that is gone. Okay, so what is the meaning of life? Okay, I'm always trying to be creating an attitude towards guilt. So I'm trying to get rid of the guilt because I survived. Okay, and again, logotherapy is the book he wrote, but it's synonymous. Whenever you see logotherapy, you're thinking existentialism. Okay. So it is, it's called there's a term for it. It is a philosophy and a theory. It's a philosophy of how you live your life, but it's also then a theory of how we could treat people. Those terms belong to Frankl. And you won't see these terms on the test. I just want to help you understand what his belief was. Okay, so we're going to stop there with our theorists tonight. So the goal is that we will continue on and keep going through the rest of the book. Again, learning the theorists, learning the verbiage. Go back and again, so we say studying is really 6 days a week, 3 hours a day, an hour in the morning, an hour at night, and an hour in the afternoon, but the same stuff. Okay, if you're using one of my videos, we're going to stay with the same videos. Don't deviate, just stay with them. If you're going back and watch this one 1,000 times, it's okay. But I want you to well enough to know the verbiage off the top of your head. When I say Gestalt, you need to know that it's, you know, empty chair technique. That's Fritz Perls, get her in the unfinished business, staying in the here and now. Okay, when I say client-centered, you got to know that that's Carl Rogers off the top of your head. Because you see in the questions that you don't have the time to figure out what that means. I've got to know the theorist to be able to answer the questions. Make sense? Okay, so we didn't do with my new people, so an introduction kind of. So let's do some roses and thorns and kind of introduce yourself. So we'll start with you, Marcus. You're in my box. You're the first person. So
How lucky am I?
I know. Look at you.
For me, my thorn is that my summer break is quickly ending. I'm going to be going back to work. Not that I don't love my job. It's just, you know, I like my freedom. And my rose is that I'm going to Chicago this weekend to go see Beyonce.
So my daughter was just in Chicago, and I asked her if she's a Beyonce fan. She's like, I don't like this new Beyonce, Mom. I don't like this new Beyonce. So how do you feel?
Beyonce can do no wrong ever in my eyes.
Okay. I bought her two front row tickets in the past, and this year she's like, I don't like Beyonce. Well, it's her birthday. She just turned 26, so I was going to buy her a ticket. So very cool. I love Chicago too. It's my favorite city in the U.S. Absolute favorite city in the U.S. Very cool. Let's see, Erica.
I guess I should have been thinking about this.
I did mention it first, didn't I?
You did.
Okay.
I was just so in tune to the session.
Okay, I'll come back to you, but I did mention it, right?
You did. You did.
Okay.
Yeah, come back to me.
I'll come back to you. Emily?
So for this week,
Yes.
it's the rose and thorn. Okay. My rose would be I just got tickets for a soccer game. My family's big soccer fan, so we just got tickets to go to Austin to watch one of our favorite soccer teams.
And who's your team?
Austin FC. I'm from Texas, so.
Gotcha. Okay, so what's your thorn?
My thorn is so I'm a caretaker for my mom. She has early onset Alzheimer's. And I guess my thorn is like she recently got diagnosed with schizophrenia, so that's been kind of challenging for me to deal with.
I'm so sorry. How old is your mom, Emily?
My parents, my mom's 75. My parents had me in their late 40s.
Okay. I'm very sorry. I'm very sorry. I had my last child at 38. So yeah, that's all. I try very hard to be healthy for my kids, and Alzheimer's is something you just can't control. And I'm
Yeah.
very sorry. Do you have siblings, or are you just on your own?
I'm an only child.
A lot of pressure. I'm very sorry for that. Okay. Janetta?
Okay, so my thorn, like Marcus, summer break is over. I actually went back yesterday, Monday. So getting ready for open house has been interesting because that's my area. I do the whole open house. I plan everything. So that has been a little bit irritating because teachers are like, oh, I need to do my classroom. I need to do my classroom. I don't have enough time. But they're waxing the floor. So they're yelling at me. And that's really not something I can control, that they're waxing the floors. But you know, they'll get to do their classrooms, just might not be before open house. So that's my thorn.
And they'll be okay, right? What's your rose?
My rose is that my birthday is coming up. It's next month. It's August 31st. And I am going to Jamaica.
Love me some Jamaica. Yeah. So very cool. Very cool. Very cool. Very cool. Where do you live, Janetta? What city?
I live in Grovetown. So if you know where Augusta is, it's
Mm-hmm.
by Augusta.
Like 9 million degrees there.
It is. It was like 98 today.
Yeah. So, well, 9 million degrees everywhere. So I apologize for that, but it's 9 million degrees everywhere.
I prefer the heat over the cold.
I do too, but today was really bad, really bad. I want to walk my dogs today, and I don't have allergies, and I couldn't breathe. And I'm in pretty good shape, and I like, oh my, I felt like pressure on my chest. Today was really bad. So definitely. Hello, Jennifer. How are you? So I still can't hear you. So for next week, and we're probably going to use the same Zoom platform because Zoom still works. So on the bottom, if you look by the mute button, there's an arrow. And at the arrow, it talks about your microphone and your speaker. So you make sure it's coming from the right place. So next week, just go back and you can play with that anytime you're on Zoom. But just kind of, it says test speakers and microphone below that. So I'm if you're at the mute button, right? The microphone, there's an arrow. You go up that arrow. If you click the arrow, it talks about how you can actually like set your microphone and your speakers to make sure that you can test it before you're starting. So just do that for next time. We'll talk about show you next time. Okay. And hold on. Is it Ardisia?
Ardisa.
Ardisa. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. You could call me D, it's so much easier.
Okay. I won't remember that until after our 17th session. But
I'm gonna probably change it on Zoom.
Thank you. It makes it so much easier. Okay.
I'll change it.
So roses and thorns.
So my rose this week was I am training my service dog, and she did a great job. We had a roundabout with groups of other dogs, and that's her biggest thing is other dogs. But she's working on passing her CGC, which is a Canine Good Citizen test. And she did great on the one part that she struggles with this past weekend. So I was happy about that. My thorn is I'm doing multiple things at one time. I'm in a doctoral program. I'm pastor of a church and I work full time doing counseling. And so my thorn is managing my time. So I have incorporated this into that time. And so I'm trying to manage it.
So what did you take off your plate when you added something else?
I decreased my classes that I'm taking for my PhD because I knew that yeah, I needed to. And so I wanted to kind of focus more on completing my, get my examination and passing. And so I decided let's decrease that and so I can be a little bit more focused.
Absolutely. So I always say, especially, we keep adding things to our plate. We don't always take anything off. Oprah says you can have everything you want in life, just not at the same time.
Yep.
Right. So something has to come off the plate in order for us to put this on. And we really believe in 90 days. In 90 days, if you listen to us, if you follow our instructions, we really believe it, and our numbers prove it, that if you make this your focus, that you'll never do this again. Our goal is that everybody around you, you should smell like the NCE. You should like a defense mechanism should be like crawling out of your skin. You know how alcoholics, even though they stop drinking, when they sweat, you still smell the alcohol. That's how it should be for you. Everybody around you should know that you're studying. In your room, as we're studying, in your bathrooms, if you are a visual processor, especially, note cards everywhere, right? Having reality therapy, having Glasser, having all those things everywhere on your phone, having the apps that you, and I'm gonna send you note cards, guys, and this, you'll get some note cards for this one also, but just over and over and over again, knowing this terminology. If you do this for 90 days, you will never do it again. And that's the issue, is making it your number one priority, because there's no reason to keep taking this test. There's really not. It is not near as hard as people think it is. I'm going to teach you everything that you need to know. The key is I can't make you study. I can't make you go back in and keep going over the videos. And I don't want to teach things more than once, because then we're not going to get everything in I want you to know. And I want you to know everything there is. And when you get to that test, there should be nothing you've never seen before, not one thing. Okay. So again, we've got a great reputation. This is what we do. And we're trying not to get those 150, 140 scores. I swear we're not, but you're my first course doing this. So you'll probably score 126, 127. My next class, I'll dumb it down a bit for you guys. I am not trying to set that curve so high. I am not, but it's a reading test. It's a reading test and knowing content. Okay. So that's the goal. So for this continuing on, we're going to stay in that human development, the helping relations. We're going to keep going on to get to the end of the chapter. So keep adding theorists. And we're going to go over it. I'm going to go over it again like I did today. I'm going to ask questions. Okay. Ardija, you weren't here last week. So I will say to you though, in the class, you have to be in the class the whole time. No driving, no cooking, no anything else behind. I get your full attention for 2 hours, 1 hour, 2 hours, 1 day a week. Okay.
So the one thing is, I don't get off of work till 4:30. So most times I'm still at work when I just reached my last client at 4. And so that's why.
For what, my time? For
4 o'clock my time. So I'm in Mountain Standard Time. And so,
what state are you in?
I'm in Colorado.
Okay.
So your 6 is my 4. And so I don't get off of work till 4:30.
Okay, so I will make that exception. In the future, I would just say, there we go. In the future, I would just say pick a different group, because I'm starting again every 2 weeks. Okay, but the goal is that because what happens is I know I'm a college professor, and I'm also was a busy mom, and if we don't give it our full attention, then we're missing things. Okay, so and since you didn't know that from last week, I understand, but in the future, any other group you have, always have to give it your full attention, and we offer them many different.
We can't hear you.
I hear you.
Can you guys hear her?
Mm-mm.
Can you hear me now? Okay.
Yes.
There we go. Sorry about that. My yeah.
Would you would it be best if I change into a different group, or?
Email Prudence and we'll have a conversation. How about that? Okay. Email Prudence, because I have one again starting in 2 weeks, but that might not be any better for your schedule. And the fact that you didn't know that the first time, I don't want to penalize you for that. That's not your fault. Okay. That's not your fault at all. Okay. Other questions? Anything about what we've gone over, how we've learned this? That makes sense to you? Yes, Emily.
Just a quick question, all the material, I know last time you had it kind of in the messaging, is that how
That's
you're
where it
gonna
is
send it?
now. That's what same place it is now. And I'll go back and put the link to this video because it's not in there. So the link will be in the messaging. And the thing is, again, so it'll be there as long as you have access to your account, it'll be there. Okay, so again, everything we always want to just keep going over, because when we leave this one, we're going to go to other sections, right? But we can't lose what we've learned. We're going to go back and pick it up and go back and pick it up. And I do questions, I'll add more and more questions. The goal is not to lose anything that we've learned. Okay. I started with these sessions are where your most points are going to come from. So helping relations talks about the theorists, right? The defense mechanisms. We'll talk about reflection, those terms. We'll talk about the behaviorists. We'll talk about family theories and group theories. That's where the majority of the points will come from. That's almost 50% of the test between these two sections. Careers is where we'll go after that, human behavior, and then diversity. And of course, research is the very end. I do research at the end purposely because those are things you only have to memorize. Everything else I tell you have to learn. When we think about Erickson's stages, right? The book is not going to say that the baby is 2. What stage is he in? It's going to give you a vignette, and you've got to figure out what stage he's at, maybe an adult who didn't pass the stage appropriately. I can be 40 and still be in trust versus mistrust. So memorizing the stages won't help me. I have to really know what happens in those ages and stages. Okay. I did mention, so the goal is that you guys will get together at least some point during the week without me. Okay. So the might not work. Okay. So, but the goal is that you would really become some study buddies. And I've seen even in chat box, you've done that already. You've kind of talked to each other and really set up like, here's the video to watch, or here's that. So the goal is that you would actually still study together. So we're doing this as a cohort, the same way that you did in school. So those that all of us learn. So I put in the chat box. So one of you, who's the leadership style, I don't know that yet because we're still in the forming stages of group. Okay, so I don't know that yet. But one of you who feels like you have some leadership stuff, just go back in the chat box and look at, hey, I'm available this time, or can we get together? Because the goal is that you would just study together outside of group. It also holds you accountable, okay, not just to me, but to each other. And I know your lives are busy. I get it, I really do. But the goal is that we don't do this again. The only time I'm going to see you after this 15 weeks is when you want to buy me a drink, buy me dinner, send me flowers. Oh, I got fruit this week from like Harry and David, the pears. The same. I take expensive gifts. I'm not the therapist. So I take expensive gifts.
Did you say what our homework assignment is yet?
I did. You're going to stay in the book and finish those helping relations.
So the whole chapter of helping relations.
The whole chapter. I covered most of everybody. I did. I made it easy for you. Okay. I did. I swear I've covered almost everybody. Okay. Right. We're going to come back. We're going to pick up like Skinner and Pavlov specifically because they are behaviorists. So Skinner is positive and negative reinforcement, positive and negative consequences. And Pavlov is classical, right? He paired 2 things. He's the dog, right? So learn about my response is my body. So in the beginning, the dog salivated. That was that his response was unconditioned, an unconditioned response, the UCR. The stimuli, the food, was the UCS, unconditioned stimuli. And then later on, he paired them together and they became the conditioned response and the conditioned stimuli. So classical condition is Pavlov and Skinner is operant conditioning. So yes, we're going to talk about Thorndike. Thorndike's the law of effect. Joseph Wolpe, he did systematic desensitization. So we're always going to do questions from different material that I give you to study from. I'm going to go over that material, but I always say that, we always want to study from something else. So I'll go over questions in a different place. Like this test I used today has nothing to do with Howard. We're always trying to learn, but I also say, I know many of you have study questions, but that really is not a way to study. It really is just learning the material, learn the material, learn the material. Learn so you can answer any question. Okay, I got a client waiting, guys. Anything else?
I have a quick question.
Yes.
Do we only have access to the videos in your material as long as we're in the class, or do we have it afterwards?
Yes. I don't know. I'll be honest with you. We haven't decided that. I'll be so honest with you. So
Okay.
we just bought this platform. And in general, we've always said, like we used Skype before, and Skype was only there for 30 days. And if you didn't save it, you didn't have it. So we haven't, to be honest with you, we haven't decided. So my thought is we'll probably give you probably a year afterwards, but at some point we'll probably have so many accounts, we'll have to close accounts. But yes, but yes, as long as, because my goal is, we hope you pass the first time. Our plan is to pass the first time, but we still want you to have your material if you don't pass. So we're not trying to, again, I am not trying to take all your money. I swear that is never our goal. I don't ever want you to buy any material. I think all of you own too much, and that's not the problem is material. The problem is understanding the material. So I just want to teach you what it looks like and teach you what it looks like in a question, because so many people tell me verbatim from the textbook. And then when you get to the test, if it doesn't say those exact words, you don't have a clue what they're asking you. And we just don't want that to happen. We really want you to do it. And also to use this terminology, apply it every single day. You work with clients every day. You do this stuff every day. Okay. I have an 8:30 client who's probably upset with me right now, so I do have to go. Okay, I will see you guys next week. Study. I'll put this video in the chat box. Everything I use, I put in the chat box. Okay. Feel free to add any questions, put it in the chat. Produce will take care of it. Okay. Bye, guys.
Bye. Thank you.